Most men have given a woman the same orgasm their entire lives, the same one, and they have no idea that 6 others exist, each one more powerful than the last, each one more available than they think, and each one completely shut down by the exact thing most men do in bed. I'm Valerie, sex therapist, and today I'm walking you through all 7. What each one actually is, why some feel hollow even when they happen, and why the most powerful ones, the ones that change everything, are the ones you've never been taught to create. Stay with me, because by the end of this, you're going to understand female orgasm in a way that most men never do. And more importantly, you're going to understand what you've been leaving on the table every single time. Now, before we get into the 7, there's something foundational you need to understand. Because without it, none of what I'm about to say will make sense. A woman's body has the same amount of erectile tissue as a man's body, the exact same amount. In a man, that tissue is concentrated in one visible structure. In a woman, it's distributed, it forms the clitoris, wraps around the vaginal walls, extends internally behind the pubic bone, and sits around the urethra in a glandular system called the paraurethral glands. All of it fills with blood during arousal. All of it becomes engorged, sensitive, and alive, and all of it takes time, 20 minutes minimum, before it's capable of producing real pleasure. You see, this is the fact that changes everything. When a woman hasn't been given enough time to fully engorge, none of these 7 experiences are genuinely available to her. Her tissue is flat, or her nervous system hasn't arrived. And whatever you do to her body in that state produces a fraction of what it's capable of producing when she's fully there. So everything I'm about to share assumes you've given her body time, real time, a full patient build before you attempt to take her anywhere. Because the women who access these deeper experiences are not built differently from other women. They have simply been given the conditions their body needs, and now you're going to understand what those conditions produce. Alright, let's start at the bottom and work upward. The first one, the one everyone knows, is the clitoral climax. You stimulate the clitoris, tension builds, and there's a release. One concentrated spike of sensation, and then it's over. The release is real. But the experience is narrow, and it's localized entirely to one small area. And because of how the nervous system processes that kind of tension and release sequence, the stimulation required to get there often feels more like work than pleasure. A lot of focused, monotonous pressure on a specific spot, building toward a moment that lasts a few seconds. For many women, the clitoral climax is actually the hardest orgasm to achieve consistently. The anxiety of trying to get there actively works against the nervous system conditions that allow it to happen. This is why women sometimes look unsatisfied after what appears to be a successful orgasm. They got there, but it didn't feed them. It was a mechanical event. And they cannot tell you why it felt empty because they don't have the language for what they're missing. Now you will. So moving up from there, the G-spot orgasm, and the reason this one sits where it does is specifically because of how most men approach it. The G-spot is located on the front wall of the vagina, about 1 to 2 inches in, where the internal clitoral structure, the paraurethral glands, and the vaginal wall all converge. When she's fully engorged, that tissue becomes textured and sensitive in a way that is completely different from the smooth wall surrounding it. And here's the thing most men don't know. That tissue has to be activated before it can be stimulated. When a woman hasn't been sufficiently aroused, going directly for the G-spot is like pressing a button that hasn't been powered on. The tissue registers pressure but sends nothing meaningful to the brain, and the harder you press, the more the body protects itself by going numb. And this is why so many men try G-spot stimulation and walk away thinking it doesn't work for her. They deactivated it, and even when approached correctly, the G-spot orgasm often doesn't behave the way men expect. For many women, it isn't a single peak and release. It's a moment of intense sensation that passes and can be built again. Multiple peaks in one session rather than one definitive climax. That's what a G-spot orgasm actually is. Okay, now this is where things start to change entirely, because the third experience on this list is something most men have never heard of, and it shifts the entire understanding of what female orgasm is. Orgasmic waves. And the reason this is fundamentally different from the first two is that it's about entering a state, not building toward a release. Instead of applying pressure to produce a response, you use gentle, graduated stimulation to first activate the tissue and make it genuinely sensitive. And then you build intensity gradually, not rushing toward a peak, but sending pleasure into her body and letting it accumulate. What happens when this is done correctly is that her nervous system doesn't snap into release. It rises into a sustained state of ongoing orgasmic activity. She doesn't have one orgasm. She becomes orgasmic. The pleasure flows rather than peaks. Continuous building, spreading through her body. She can stay in that state for extended periods without it subsiding. And for the majority of women, this experience is actually easier to access than the clitoral climax. It requires less mechanical effort, less precision, and far less pressure on either of you. The climax, if she wants it, can come at the end of this. Or it doesn't need to. She may already be somewhere so far beyond what a quick climax offers that ending it there would feel like leaving a feast early. Now, the fourth one, the false vaginal orgasm. And I want to name this specifically because it causes so much confusion. During penetration, when your pelvis is grinding against her clitoris, she can come from that grinding. People interpret this as a vaginal orgasm because it happens during intercourse, and it feels different from a standard clitoral climax because the vagina is also receiving pleasure internally at the same time, and the two sensations blend, but it is still a clitoral climax produced externally, just happening during penetration. The more important point is this: when you are focused on chasing this during penetration, you're actively working against the conditions that allow the deeper vaginal experiences to emerge. You're introducing the tension and release pattern into a space where something much more expansive is available. And that pattern closes the door on everything that comes next. Now I want to pause here, because the next three, the ones that sit at the top of this list, the most powerful and the most available to women who are approached correctly. These are conversations I can't fully finish on this platform. The explicit detail, the specific moment, how to read her body as these states develop, YouTube draws a line here. So that conversation lives in Valerie Uncensored, my private newsletter. Explicit, specific, unfiltered. Everything I cannot finish here, I finish in there. Link is in the description. That's where you go next. Well, alright, back to it. The fifth. And this is where everything shifts. True vaginal orgasmicity. And I want to be precise about that word. Orgasmicity, not orgasm. Because what I'm describing is not a single event. It is a state the vagina enters and sustains. You see, the clitoral structure is far larger than most people realize. The external tip is just the beginning. The full clitoral body extends internally, its arms running along the vaginal walls, its deeper tissue sitting directly behind the pubic bone, and the paraurethral glands that wrapped around the urethra, adjacent to all of this internal clitoral tissue. When a woman is fully aroused, all of this fills with blood simultaneously. It becomes one connected system of engorged radiant tissue. And when the vagina is approached from this state of full engorgement, with genuine patience and presence rather than mechanical pressure toward a goal, something happens that goes far beyond localized sensitivity. The tissue comes alive, all of it at once. The entrance, the walls, the deeper regions, all of it becomes vibrant in a way it simply isn't during standard rush sex. And it begins generating pleasure outward, into the belly, through the hips, along the spine. Rather than receiving stimulation passively, the vagina becomes the source. And this state, once activated, is self-sustaining. It doesn't require constant escalation. It builds rather than depletes. The reason most women never find it is that the approach that shuts it down, focused, mechanical, goal-oriented touching, is exactly what most men bring to sex. The vagina responds to presence, to aliveness, to the feeling of being genuinely attended to. When it receives that, it opens. When it receives pressure toward a destination, it closes, moving to the sixth. And this one lives at the deepest end of what the female body is capable of, the cervical orgasm. The cervix sits at the far end of the vaginal canal, the deepest point. And when it's reached correctly, it produces orgasmic waves that are unlike anything else on this list. Something that clears through the whole nervous system rather than concentrating in the genitals. Profoundly nourishing. Women describe it as a release that touches a part of them that doesn't usually get touched at all. But for most women, this area is locked. Deep penetration has historically been done too rough, too fast, treating depth as performance rather than intimacy. And the cervix, exquisitely sensitive when approached with care, has learned to protect itself. It tightens. It goes numb. Deep pressure registers as pain rather than pleasure. Now this can change. The cervix opens through gentleness and time, through progressively building depth over multiple encounters, so she learns to trust that going that deep with this particular man is safe. When that trust is established, when the cervix releases its protective tightness and becomes genuinely receptive, what becomes available is extraordinary. Orgasmic waves spreading from the deepest point outward. And once this area opens, it stays more open. Each encounter builds the trust further. What started as locked and painful becomes, over time, the most powerful orgasmic experience available to her. And the seventh, the one that sits at the top, the full body orgasmic state. This is what becomes available when everything before it has been done right. When her whole body has been awakened, when the vagina is orgasmic, when the cervix is open and trusting, when every part of her is alive and receiving. In that state, her whole body becomes a field of pleasure. Every contact, a penetration, your mouth, your hands, anywhere on her body sends waves of orgasmic sensation through the whole system. Nothing is isolated. Nothing is localized. There is no specific spot producing the orgasm because the orgasm is everywhere simultaneously. Her entire nervous system is in an orgasmic state, and it builds rather than depletes. The longer it continues, the more available it becomes. Women who have been here describe it as complete dissolution. No separation between pleasure and self. No awareness of goal or outcome. Just a sustained, radiating aliveness that cannot be chased because it is already everywhere. And this is available to almost every woman. It is what her body is designed for. It is what becomes accessible when the approach is right. Okay, let me pull this all together. You see, the reason most men only know the first orgasm on this list is that everything about how sex is typically approached is oriented around that one. The rushing, the goal, the specific technique applied to a specific spot until something happens. That entire orientation produces the clitoral climax at best and shuts the door on everything else. Everything from the third experience upward requires a completely different orientation, or away from making something happen, toward creating conditions in which her body can do what it is already capable of doing. Her whole body awakened before you focus on anything specific. Vaginal tissue warmed with patient, gentle attention before anything more direct. The deeper parts of her approached with care. Those parts have rarely been given. Intensity built gradually while reading her responses rather than following a script. When you bring that to her, her body stops being something you are trying to produce an outcome from and becomes something that is alive and opening toward you in ways you have probably never experienced. So stop chasing the release. Start building the experience. Give her body time, presence, and genuine attention in every part of the encounter, not just the focused minutes you've been saving for the end. Her body has been waiting for someone who knows how to find the rest. And if you want the explicit, fully detailed version of how to create every one of these experiences, join Valerie Uncensored. Link is in the description. That is where I take all of this all the way. I'll see you there.